Okay, so let's get into the play-by-play of the survivor testimonies themselves. Epstein survivors implore Congress to act as push for disclosure builds. Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse made their voices heard Wednesday on Capitol Hill, pressuring lawmakers to force the release of the sex trafficking investigation into the late financier and pushing back on President Donald Trump's effort to dismiss the issue as a hoax. That's right. In a news conference on the Capitol lawn that drew hundreds of supporters and chants of "release the files," the women shared, some publicly for the first time, how they were lured into Epstein's abuse by his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. They demanded that the Trump administration provide transparency and accountability for what they endured as teenagers. So here is the first video that we have. Epstein survivor claims Trump was Jeffrey Epstein's biggest brag during Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna's news conference. Let's take a look at this.
He surrounded himself, with the most powerful leaders of our country and the world. He abused not only me, but countless others, and everyone seemed to look away. The truth is, Epstein had a free pass. He bragged about his powerful friends, including our current president, Donald Trump. It was his biggest brag, actually. And while what I endured will haunt me forever, I live every day with PTSD. I live as a mother trying to raise my child while distrusting a world that has betrayed me. This kind of trauma never leaves you. It breaks families apart. It shapes the way we see everyone around us. But one thing is certain, unless we learn from this history, monsters like Epstein will rise again. There are files, government files, that hold the truth about Epstein, who he knew, who owed him, who protected him, and why he was allowed to operate for so long without consequence. Why was Maxwell the only one held accountable when so many others played a role? Why does the government hide this information from the public? This secrecy is not protection, it's complicity. And as long as the truth is buried, justice will remain out of reach. That is why this bill matters. Passing it will, bless you, ensure that the suffering of survivors is not in vain. Passing it will bring accountability, transparency, and prevention. It will help protect the next generation of predators who seek to place themselves above the law through wealth, influence, and connections.
So Donald Trump would then double down on his hoax claim as this was going on when asked about it, as we'll see in just a second. It was a striking stand as the push for disclosure of the so-called Epstein files reaches a pivotal moment in Washington. Lawmakers are battling over how Congress should delve into the Epstein saga, while the Republican president, after initially signaling support for transparency on the campaign trail, has been dismissing the matter as a, quote, Democrat hoax. So here he is. This is as the press conference was going on. He's asked about it in the White House.
Mr. President, right now there have been survivors of Jeffrey Epstein speaking at a press conference on Capitol Hill. They're calling for these case files, these documents to be released. And Thomas Massie, who is sponsoring a discharge position to get the House to vote on the release of those documents, says he doesn't think you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be, and he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow walking the release. Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir?
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. Even if you look at D.C. right now, D.C., winning. It's a totally safe zone. It's called the...
All these things that I'm doing to distract people about the Epstein files, and no one wants to talk about those things. They all just want to talk about the Epstein files. All the great things I've done to get people to not pay attention to this hasn't worked. Hasn't worked.
And of course, the biggest thing is if you really wanted this to be over, you just release them. Like there's no.
That's it. That's literally it. Like all you have to do is release them, and it's over.
Safe zone. That's a term. It's a term of art. It's a safe zone because it's very safe. You can walk down the street now and nothing's going to happen. No crime, no murders, no nothing. Because we had a lot of problems with certain places, and we still do. All run by Democrats.
You should ask the Polish president while he has him there. Hey, how many Polish guys does it take to release the Epstein list?
Yeah,
that would be good. You should.
I lived in
the mood.
I lived in D.C. for 8 years. I moved out 3 years ago, and never really saw any crime. Never. I was involved in a little, but I never saw it happen to me. Never heard of any murders happening near me. There was only one. I had a friend live in a neighborhood, and a guy was murdered in what was apparently a faulty robbery. It was his name was Seth Rich. That's the only murder I recall in DC.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They were looking for a thumb drive in his wallet, and he didn't have it. So so they whacked him.
It was a faulty robbery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they needed that hard drive from him, and he didn't have it on him. So they had to cover it up and get out of there. So he, as this is going on, doubling down. You mentioned how earlier how a lot of the things that Trump has done to sort of deflect from this haven't worked. He is a guy. I feel like Trump. I always said, because there's a saying about Trump that, well, he's not a politician, he's a businessman. And I always thought, no, it's actually kind of the opposite. He's actually not a very good businessman, but he is kind of accidentally a very skilled politician. And I think the one skill that he kind of brought with him to politics by accident is message discipline, because he's such a stubborn asshole, right? And so unyielding and so unapologetic that he has tremendous message discipline. And in this case, I think that message discipline is the one area where that's generally an asset in politics. But in this area, it might be a liability, because he simply cannot and will not come off of it's a Democrat hoax, no matter what. He's just going to keep repeating that over and over and over again, which normally, as a politician, that kind of stuff helps. It helps define you behind whatever priorities you want to communicate. But as we saw in the last piece, and I'll put this up again, I mean, this is a loser. This is a losing issue. So if you will not let go of the talking point that this is a Democrat hoax, you're only going to dig yourself deeper and deeper.
Ironically, he was one of the earliest people to bring it up. He brought it up in a debate against Hillary Clinton in 2015, 2016. And it might have been to try and stay ahead of it, because he knew that topic kind of implicated him. But he got the ball rolling, and now he wants to stop it. And I think the reason you're seeing the message discipline from him is because it's what else can you say? You're clearly trying to cover something up, or else you would reveal them all. So it's he has to keep changing the subject. There's kind of no other option other than just creating a bunch of, shiny objects. Look over here. There's National Guard walking the streets.
Exactly. And this is why, not to bring up Michael Tracy again, but he seems to be one of the only journalists out there saying there's nothing to see here. And I get it. Whenever it comes to a story like this, where there's a lot more ice under the water horizon, most of the iceberg is underwater that you can't see it. There's a lot of speculation about what's under there, and we don't know what's under there, which is the core problem of this whole story, is that they won't release the information. So whenever you have a story that's probably 80% speculation and 20% substance, there's going to be wild speculation, and a lot of that speculation inevitably is going to be wrong. Yeah. So I understand that. However, to me, there is just no explaining how fucking guilty Donald Trump sounds whenever this comes up. He sounds like the guiltiest man on earth. This is simply not the behavior of someone with nothing to hide. It just isn't. You can't gaslight people into thinking that.
Yeah. But also think of the amount of information in various fields they have that have not been released to the public. You have, you might, let's say there is no client list. They try and claim there's no client list. Let's say he didn't keep a client list. It was in his head. So there was not. But think about everything else. You've got everything that was taken from his mansions and all of his properties. We know there were cameras set up. So all of those videos, all of the data, all of his files, everything was, we know FBI trucks showed up to his New York mansion and filled up trucks and then left somewhere, Or did they just drive into the Hudson? Like, you've got all of that information. You've got the, you know, the 1 minute, although it's actually 3 minutes, that was cut out of the prison video.
Right.
You've got the fact that of the 9 or 11 cameras, there were only 2 functioning and only one of them pointing that could have shown anything even close to Epstein's cell, and even that one has 3 minutes missing. Like, you've got loads of information in just a variety of fields and areas, and none of it is a giant black box. So
yeah. No, it is just like I said, it's a problem that will not go away. So here is Epstein abuse survivor Haley Robson on President Trump saying Epstein issue is a hoax. So you kind of had this like secondhand conversation going on in somewhat real time.
The president has said that this Epstein issue is a hoax, is the word that he used. Can we get your reactions to what you think when you hear him say that?
I'll answer that. Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
What does it feel like emotionally to hear that?
Devastating.
It's being gutted from the inside out. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it's the anxiety buildup with the depression and the survival mode, and then your nervous system goes limp and ironically is shot, and it feels like you just want to explode inside because nobody, again, is understanding that this is a real situation. These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not... Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
Well, that was one of the survivors. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene directly rebuking Donald Trump's claim that this is a big hoax. This is pretty good.
Hoax. While these women were speaking out and they were saying we're not a hoax, we're human beings, and I think we need to see something turn around there.
You know,
and I'll say this, Eric.
He can prove it's a hoax by releasing it. Let us decide if it's a hoax or not. I mean, I love everything they're doing. I'm MAGA through and through.
Well, I just want to finish up on one thing.
I love the
It's
whole,
not a hoax because Jeffrey...
feeding immigrants to the alligators in the swamp out there. I love that. That's great. But, this is kind of sticking to my craw a bit.
It is amazing seeing these people act like they care about humans.
Yeah, right.
They're like, these women deserve justice.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All of a sudden, they're pro-woman, they're pro-family, they're pro-child. Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is of course, the irony hidden in plain sight within all of this. But, I think like on the Democrat side, I notice a sort of generational divide. I think like the people on the Democratic side who have been the most vocal about this have tended to be younger because, hey, a guy like John Ossoff, he's too young to be in the files. So he's like, well, fuck it. I'm not in there. Maybe Bill Clinton is, but that's not my problem. I think you're starting to see this, too, amongst the younger generation of Republicans. I mean, we see a pattern here. I mean, Massey is a Gen Xer, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is, too. But then you got Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert. Those are the other two. I think, we may get to 6 to force a vote on this. They seemed confident that they would get to 6 Republicans a few weeks ago when we covered that. Maybe it was it's probably more than that. It's probably over a month ago by this
question
point.
you might know the answer to. If there's a vote, does that mean that the files have to be released?
They can vote to, who knows whether they will actually do it. I mean, when it comes to, this executive branch, I don't know how much respect they have for the Congress. They're always within their, I would never put it past them to tell them to just go get their fucking shine box. But yeah, they can vote to compel them to release the files, at which point, who knows? Maybe it's a court battle. Is that executive privilege or does the Congress have some authority over that? The first step is obviously to bring a vote to the floor. And, if they get the Republicans they need, you assume that would be the same vote in terms of like the same yes no divide would exist to force the vote as would exist in the actual final vote. So as of now, they need 2 more. But it is kind of startling to see Marjorie Taylor Greene push back that directly. Like, no, Mr. President, this is not a hoax. Because Nancy Mace, as we're going to see in the next segment, lacked that kind of courage.
I could see Trump claiming it's his executive privilege to bang teenagers. I could see that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's not in the public interest to know about it. Yeah. But I mean, like Farina said, it's not, even if you don't believe Donald Trump has anything personal to hide, you see the subservience to Israel, right? I mean, you see how in the pocket of these other characters he could be covering for them. Even if you assume his hands are clean, which is a big assumption.
Yeah, and Ehud Barak is a major figure in these files. So,
exactly.
And there are a million other ties to Israel. Ghislaine Maxwell's father was clearly working with Israel, possibly Mossad. But anyway, was given a royal funeral in Israel when he died mysteriously off his yacht.
Yeah, he fell off a boat. Yeah.
Long connections to Israel.
Yeah, so that could be a big part of it too. Like, it doesn't just stop at Trump, obviously. I think the connections to Israel probably run even deeper than to Trump, and we know how committed he is to protecting them. So yeah, I mean, the idea that there's nothing to hide here, nothing to see here, is just so patently absurd. And it is kind of amazing how the Republican Party, which was more vocal about this than the Democrats for the longest time, are now almost in lockstep behind Trump, backing the blocking of these files. They're chipping away one by one.
Because like Trump said, if he endorses their opponents, they lose. And they've basically all been told, you will be out if you go against Trump on this.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really not doing much to dispel the notion that it's a cult. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, for the longest time, they would refuse that. And, I even gave MAGA credit for some of these things along the way, gave them the benefit of the doubt. But what's been revealed in this second term is just how cultish they actually are, just how much of a dear leader dynamic actually exists within that party.
Can you have a cult of puppets, or is that a mixed metaphor?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Please clap.